Hello, everyone. My name is Christina Gauthier. I'm the Public Relations Coordinator for PERA's Albuquerque office. Thank you for joining us today for PERA's retirement seminar. We hope that you learn something of value today as you prepare for retirement. PERA is a 401A qualified government retirement plan that is governed by the New Mexico Public Employees Retirement Act. PERA provides benefits to over 47,000 active members and over 42,000 retirees and beneficiaries. Currently, PERA has 31 coverage plans. PERA is governed by a 12-member board of trustees made up of members just like you and me. We have members who come to us from state entities, cities, counties. We have 2 retirees who hold seats, and our elected officials, the Secretary of State and the State Treasurer, also make up PERA's board. Our board is tasked with overseeing the trust fund from which pension benefits are paid and agency operations are funded. Since PERA is a 401A defined benefit plan, you have lifetime monthly pension benefits after retirement. Once you meet age Hello, my name is Christina Gauthier. I am the Public Relations Coordinator for PERA's Albuquerque office. Thank you for joining me today for PERA's retirement seminar. We hope that you learn something of value as you prepare for retirement. PERA is a 401A qualified government plan governed by the New Mexico Public Employees Retirement Act. PERA provides benefits to over 47,000 active members and 42,000 retirees and beneficiaries. PERA currently has 31 coverage plans. PERA is governed by a 12-member board of trustees. We have members who come to us from state entities, cities, counties. 2 retirees currently hold seats. The Secretary of State and State Treasurer are also ex officio members. PERA's board is tasked with overseeing the trust fund from which pension benefits are paid and agency operations are funded. Regardless of which group of individuals they are elected by, their overall goal is to make sure PERA's pension is there for everyone's lifetime. Since PERA is a 401A as an apple defined benefit plan, once you meet certain age and service credit eligibility requirements, you are eligible to receive a lifelong monthly pension benefit, regardless of what you paid in terms of employee contributions into your retirement plan. Your benefit will also increase if you participate in a plan and meet eligibility as related to cost of living adjustments, also known as COLA. PERA offers a disability retirement when a member meets minimum qualifications, which is rare in the private sector. This lovely slide shares some statistics that indicate an individual's age at the time of retirement and how that sort of changed over the years. PERA has lots of members who actually retire in their 40s, early 40s, into their early 50s, which you can see by this slide puts us in a very rare breed of really, really wonderful retirement plans, making members in those age groups eligible to draw a lifetime pension so young. Most individuals are retired in their 60s. The average retirement age currently is in the neighborhood of 67 years of age. So another reason New Mexico is such an important part of retirement for our members. Hello, my name is Christina Gauthier. I am the Public Relations Coordinator for PERA's Albuquerque office. Thank you for joining me today for PERA's retirement seminar. We hope you take away some additional knowledge that maybe you didn't have at the start of this seminar as you prepare for retirement. For the record, PERA is a 401A qualified government retirement plan governed by the New Mexico Public Employees Retirement Act. PERA provides benefits to over 47,000 active members and 42,000 retirees and beneficiaries. Currently, PERA has 31 coverage plans. PERA is governed by a 12-member board of trustees made up of members just like you and me. We have individuals who come to us from the state, from cities, from counties. We also have 2 retirees who currently hold seats. And as ex officio members, the Secretary of State and the State Treasurer also sit on PERA's board. Our Board of Trustees is tasked with overseeing the trust fund from which pension benefits are paid and agency operations are funded. Since PERA is a 401(a) defined benefit plan, you will have lifelong monthly pension benefits after you meet certain age and service credit eligibility requirements, regardless of what you paid in biweekly into your contribution bucket. Your benefit may increase if you are eligible for a cost of living adjustment, also known as a COLA. There are certain eligibility requirements that are required, and not all of the 31 plans have a cost of living adjustment provision. A disability retirement is also offered by PERA if you meet the qualifications. And as you probably are aware, disability retirement is rare in the private sector. This lovely slide shares some interesting statistics. For the record, PERA has a lot of members who actually retire in their 40s and early 50s. When you look at this slide that shows percentage of US adults who are retired by age group over the years, you will see that the percentages of individuals who are retiring in their 40s or 50s are super low. Most individuals aren't retiring until they get into their 60s, 70s, and beyond. That makes PERA a really wonderful benefit for New Mexicans, knowing that you can retire as soon as you are eligible, regardless of age, in the majority of our plans. All right, first on the agenda here is to discuss retirement eligibility. Retirement is effective the first day of the month after you meet age and service credit requirements of the plan that you are retiring from, and your retirement application is filed and complete with PERA, including all required documentation. And last but not least, you have terminated employment with all New Mexico state retirement systems, including PERA and the Educational Retirement Board. One more note. If you fail to meet any of the 3 requirements, your retirement is delayed until the first day of the month after you satisfy all 3 requirements. Our next topic of interest is tiers, vesting, and age and service credit retirement eligibility. PERA was divided into 2 tiers of membership during the 2013 legislative session. You are considered to be Tier 1 if you were hired into a PERA-eligible position on or before June 30th of 2013 and had member contributions in your account as of that date. The only other way to be considered a Tier 1 member of PERA is to have been retired as of June 30th of 2013. You are considered to be Tier 2 if you were hired for the first time into a PERA-eligible position on or after July 1st of 2013, or you worked for a PERA-related entity in the past, separated employment, took a refund of your contributions, and as a result, had $0 on account as of June 30th of 2013. If you returned to work July 1st of 13 or later, having refunded your time, you are considered to be Tier 2, even if you pay PERA back for that time you withdrew. Your hire date gets trumped by the refund of contributions. So it's important to understand which tier of membership you fall under, because it actually helps to determine your retirement eligibility. During the 2020 legislative session, vesting for Tier 2 members was actually adjusted. And so as of today, vesting for Tier 1 and Tier 2 members of PERA occurs after the member accrues a minimum of 5 years of PERA service credit. So what does vesting mean? Vesting means that you have a lifetime pension being held in your name to pay you when you meet age and service credit eligibility requirements. Vesting also means that you're eligible to purchase additional types of service credit. And so it's really important to understand how vesting impacts you. There is nothing in PERA's rules that require those 5 years to be served consecutively. So if you are employed and you work a year here, you go off and do something else, you return and do a few more years, leave again, come back. As long as you have a total of 5 years of PERA service credit, you will be considered vested. Tier 1 retirement eligibility requirements are divided into 2 categories. We're going to start in the bottom right-hand corner. If you are a Tier 1 member of municipal police or fire plans 3, 4, or 5, you can retire at any age with 20 or more years of service credit. Thereafter, you have to satisfy the age and service credit requirement on one line to be retirement eligible. You will note that the minimum is 5 years of service credit and 65 birthdays. In the upper left-hand corner of this slide, you will note that we have 25-year retirement plans as well. If you are not a member of the municipal police or fire plans 3, 4, or 5, and you are Tier 1, your retirement eligibility is expressed on the table in the upper left-hand corner. When you have 25 years of service credit, regardless of age, you are eligible to retire. Thereafter, age and service credit has to be satisfied, with the minimum in this category also being 5 years and 65 birthdays. If you are Tier 2 and you are not a public safety officer, we'll go into more detail in just a bit. Technically, there are 2 ways to qualify for retirement. The minimum is a familiar and repetitious statement. 65 years of age with 5 or more years of service credit is the minimum eligibility. To retire prior to your 65th birthday, you need to satisfy the Rule of 85. What the Rule of 85 calls for is a minimum of 5 years of service credit. Once that has been satisfied, your full years of age, full years of service credit added together needs to equal 85. When this rolled out in 2013, members asked, how do I calculate how long I need to work in Tier 2 to be retirement eligible? The example that you see listed here will help you get a rough estimate of the number of years. If you take your starting point, which is the number 85, and subtract your age at the time of hire as a Tier 2 member, you will get a number. That result gets divided by 2 because PERA is presuming that every single year you will accrue a year of service credit and have a birthday. The result gives you the approximate number of years you need to work to reach retirement eligibility. If in doing that calculation, you have exceeded 65 birthdays, 65 years of age, and a minimum of 5 years of service credit is technically your first eligibility. But somebody who begins employment in their teens or 20s and even 30s will likely satisfy Rule of 85 before they get to 65 birthdays. Of course, there is no guarantee because we are all individuals, but just for reference. For our Tier 2 public safety plan members, 25 years at any age or a minimum of 60 birthdays and 5 years of service credit makes you retirement eligible. Dates are super important. So we all, when we think back in our history, kind of remember maybe the month, maybe the year we were hired into a PERA eligible position. And so that information actually gets transmitted to PERA on your application for membership. And so what we are looking at is your date of hire. If you were hired into a PERA eligible position on or before the 16th day of the month, you've met 1/2 of the requirement for accruing service credit for your first month of employment. Each and every month from the first to the last that you are employed, your salary is also a factor. Under the current rules, for each and every month that you are employed, you must be reported to PERA as having earned no less than 1/2 of your normal salary as a full-time employee. If you are part-time and you are working less than 30 hours per week, please contact PERA directly for service credit requirements. So in your very first month, on or before the 16th day as your hire date, that month has to be reported to PERA as having earned no less than 1/2 of your normal salary as a full-time employee. Each and every month from your first month to the last that you are employed, your salary is being taken into consideration. If your salary dips below half because you've taken family medical leave as leave without pay, or you've been injured on the job and you've taken advantage of workers' compensation benefits, or you voluntarily take leave without pay because you have no other choice. In any month where you dip below half of your normal salary as a full-time employee, it can negatively impact your service credit. So just keep that in mind. We'll talk a little bit later about how to kind of get a gauge of where you are in terms of service credit. And then in the month you give up your day job, PERA's service credit rules say you can leave employment on or after the 15th day of the month. And of course, you have to satisfy the salary requirements. But for the purposes of our retirement discussion, I would like to encourage you to stay on payroll until the last calendar day of the month, until the last pay period and Friday of the month, as late in the month as possible. It actually serves many purposes. First and foremost, we want you to meet the service credit rules, right? We don't want you to get to the retirement finish line and quit before you actually accrued service credit in your last month of employment. Second, if you're in the process of earning your highest salary as you near the retirement finish line, leaving halfway through the month actually prohibits you from recording your highest salary for that month. So staying on payroll will help us capture your highest salary to the end of that last month. Additionally, when PERA retires you, as an example, let's say I leave employment March 31st. PERA is going to retire me April 1st, provided I meet those 3 requirements we talked about earlier. They are not going to issue my first payment until the last business day of April. And so when I leave employment on the 15th day of the month, I am increasing the gap between my last payroll from my employer and my first payroll from PERA. Last but not least, if you are a state of New Mexico employee, and this may be true for our municipalities as well, your insurance coverage is likely going to end at 11:59 p.m. on your last day of employment. If your employer carries you beyond to the end of the month, fantastic for you, but that is not true for every entity under PERA's umbrella. And so staying on payroll later in the month ensures that you will have continuity of coverage. If your agency participates in the New Mexico Retiree Healthcare program, they officially consider you eligible for their program on your effective retirement date from PERA. So you could be creating a gap in insurance if you leave on the 15th day of the month because you heard it in a presentation somewhere. All right, so next item of business, we pronounce this lovely word, reciprocity. What it means in basic terms is that you've worked under more than one state retirement system. Our most common reciprocal service credit occurs when an individual works under a PERA-related entity, as well as an educational retirement plan entity. And so as long as that employment does not overlap and the contributions for that earned service credit have not been refunded, your combined service credit can help you retire sooner instead of later. So as an example, if I worked for PERA 20 years and I worked for a public school, college, or university in New Mexico and contributed to the Educational Retirement Board, my 25 years of combined service credit would help me as a Tier 1 member retire with 25 years of service credit regardless of age. And so it is important to note overlapping time does not count, refunded time does not count, and how does it change your retirement? So first and foremost, you have to apply for retirement with the last state system you're employed under. So as a PERA employee, but also a PERA member, I would apply for retirement through PERA, and they would coordinate with the Educational Retirement Board on my behalf to make sure my transition into retirement is seamless. Here is the fun note for you. Each retirement system is required to retain their respective rules, regulations, calculations, and contributions. I had a discussion with the member yesterday. He thought his ERB, Educational Retirement Board dollars, would roll over to PERA and help him retire sooner. And so the service credit helps them retire sooner, but the contributions remain separate at each respective entity. And when the member retires, he will get one payment from PERA on the last business day of the month. The Educational Retirement Board will release their payment based on their payment schedule. When a member is eligible for a cost of living adjustment under each respective system, each system will base their calculation on their rules and regs and issue that payment. So it's important to understand, while we work together, we are separate retirement entities. And as such, you have to complete some additional paperwork when you have reciprocity with the Educational Retirement Board. PERA's retirement packet, which we're going to go over here shortly, is ours. In addition to that, members with reciprocity need to complete and submit a direct deposit authorization form, federal tax withholding form, and New Mexico tax withholding form to PERA so that PERA can share our information and those forms with the Educational Retirement Board. So super important that you understand there are lots of moving parts if you have reciprocity. All right, so next item of business is the retirement preparation schedule. This lovely circle of retirement preparation, we are going to go over in greater detail, but essentially the process begins with requesting an estimate of benefits, gathering documentation, downloading or requesting a retirement kit, researching post-retirement insurance, and of course, submitting your retirement kit to PERA for processing. So we're going to kick off this section with requesting an estimate of benefits. So if you are not new to the retirement preparation process, the form on the left-hand side of your slide probably looks super familiar. This is the current version of PERA's request form. The top section, section 1, asks you for your personal identifiers. We know you've got that covered. It's section 2 that we want to draw some attention to. And so in section 2, the second checkbox under that section allows members to request an estimate of benefits. You will see in the brackets that members can request up to 2 estimated benefits in a 12-month period. I've been doing this a very long time for PERA. Last month was my 18th anniversary with the organization. And so I've seen some pretty comical things, not that it's funny for the member retiring, but on the back end for processing. I actually had a member complete that line, estimate of benefits requested for retirement on, and they wrote the words, "I don't know." So here's a fun fact for you. I don't know either, because obviously I've been doing this a long time. I am very well versed in PERA's rules, but I can't read your mind, and neither can none of our retirements or request staff. We need you to help us help you get valuable, useful information. So on that line, you could ask PERA for your first eligible retirement date. I've had members write as soon as possible, the acronym ASAP. You could give us a specific date. Maybe the rumor mill got to you and you have heard that retiring December 31st is the best time. Tell us which December 31st you want to retire. If you are targeting a certain number of years or a certain percentage, absolutely give us that information. And as long as it's within 3 years of the date you submit your request, PERA will absolutely help you figure out what that date looks like and the benefits you can expect to receive based on that information. Some helpful tips to get the most out of your estimate of benefits request. Item number 1 is asking you to provide beneficiary information. This does not change your pre-retirement beneficiary options. It will, however, allow PERA to respond with all of the available forms of payment that you have to select from when you submit your application for retirement. In order to do that, we need your beneficiary's name, social security number, how they're related to you, and that individual's date of birth. I've seen members request one date and list 2 different beneficiary identifiers so that they can see and compare and contrast naming 2 different beneficiaries and how that impacts their retirement. I've seen members request December of one year, December of another year with the same beneficiary. Just keep in mind 2 estimates total. Item number 2 is asking you if you have reciprocity. I think it's safe to say everyone in this space, everyone watching this video is a PERA of New Mexico member, but we will not look at the other reciprocal plans unless you kind of give us a clue. Obviously, we have records if you have ever been a sitting judge under the judicial or magistrate retirement plans, but our friends at the Educational Retirement Board and PERA, we don't have the ability to search each other's databases. So if you have reciprocity with the Educational Retirement Board, we do need you to check that box so that we can touch base with them and give you accurate information for both retirement systems. Bottom of the page on the request form tells you that the standard response time is 30 to 45 days. If we've reached day 46 in your response time window, please do not submit an additional request. Please contact PERA and check the status of your request. For the record, if you have reciprocity, it could take longer than 45 days, but it's always better to touch base, because if you submit an additional request or the same request 46 days later, it cancels your previous request in our current workflow system. So just reach out to us. It's super helpful just to get an update. Also, once you get your estimate of benefits in your hot little hands, PERA has built a estimate of benefits instructional video, which is available on PERA's library. And so it walks you through section by section and explains where that information comes from and how it's applicable to your decision-making process. So we encourage you to review that after you get your estimate of benefits or before. All right, so the next step in the bubble, gather documentation. These items are required, presuming they are applicable to you. So first item of business, we need proof of age for you or your designated beneficiary. The easiest way to prove your age to us is to give us a copy of your and your beneficiary's driver's licenses. And so if you don't have a driver's license or your beneficiary does not, we will accept a birth or baptismal certificate. If none of those three things are available, we give you a list of alternative documentation in the retirement kit. Next item of business, PERA is going to ask for a copy of your and your beneficiary's Social Security cards. And so you can scan us a copy, bring them into an office and have them verified in person. If you're not quite sure where your Social Security card is, we have a lovely video in our video library from our Social Security Administrator representative, Rhonda Romero, that actually talks to you about how to request a duplicate Social Security card, or you can visit ssa.gov. The next item of business, if you are married at the time of retirement, PERA will ask for a copy of your marriage certificate. That being said, if you are not married at the time of retirement, please don't run out and get married just to get us that item. Next item of business. PERA is going to ask you for court-endorsed copies of your divorce documentation. This includes final decrees, marital settlement agreements, and any orders related to the division of your retirement benefits. If you were married and divorced pre-employment, PERA is likely only going to ask you for the first page of your court-endorsed final decree to prove that the court-endorsed date stamp happened before your employment date under PERA's umbrella. The reason is New Mexico is a community property state. We are not common law, but we are community property. Anything that you have earned under PERA's umbrella towards retirement, your spouse has a community property right too. So pre-employment divorce requires first page court endorsed final decree. If, however, you were married, divorced, and remarried and then hired into PERA's system, the marriage certificate suffices for proving that your former spouse has no retirement rights to your account. If you happen to be married and divorced 7 times between your hire date and your date of retirement, you will have tied the current record at PERA for the highest number of divorces related to retirement. PERA will need every single page of every court-endorsed final decree, marital settlements agreement, and any and all orders from a judge dividing your retirement benefits. If you've agreed to give a portion of your retirement to a former spouse and there is an applicable order, PERA makes that calculations pursuant to that order, and we share that information in your estimate of benefits. If there's a mention of divorce and division of retirement benefits, but we do not have a court order, we're likely going to pay it all to you, and then you pay all the taxes, and then you figure out how to pay your former spouse their share. So make sure that your divorce documentation is in order. Our attorneys will review it when it is submitted and apply any applicable, portions of that order. All right, next item of business. So the application for pension form is now 10 pages. It probably seems overwhelming since I'm eligible for retirement sooner than later. The first time I saw this, I must admit, my heart kind of stopped. And so it looks like a lot. Honestly, the first 3 pages are technically the instructions. Our lovely bureau chief, the Miss Cristina PERA, painstakingly created the instructions section by section, so you know exactly what PERA is asking for you. The remainder of the 10 pages, all 7 pages that you see here, are required to be submitted. They run from section 1 to section 10. If you omit any of those pages, your application will not be complete, and as a result, we will not retire you. For the record, PERA cannot provide any tax advice related to section 9. We will withhold whatever taxes you tell us to in section 9 on the state side and the federal side, courtesy of the W-4P form, and make your pension payments based on those designations. The good news is, even though the form seems overwhelming, you have lots of opportunities to make changes to your tax withholding and direct deposit information pre or post-retirement. PERA strongly recommends that you contact a tax professional if you have any questions about that document. And my lovely colleague, the Miss Natalie Padilla, just created a how to complete PERA's application for pension form video, which is also available in PERA's video library. And so that takes you section by section through the form and helps you understand what we are asking of you. So we encourage you to watch that video separately as you have time and are ready to complete that form. All right, so this lovely circle on the retirement preparation schedule is super important. We encourage you to research post-retirement insurance. The most important thing at the top of the page is PERA provides a lifetime pension to all of our eligible members. We do not, under any circumstances, offer any post-retirement insurance. My colleagues and I will tell you every single day, PERA gets an email from a member, a retiree, saying, hey, I need to make changes to my insurance. And that is fantastic. However, you've reached out to the wrong entity. If your agency participates with the New Mexico Retiree Healthcare Authority, some folks call it NMRHCA, oftentimes you can see a deduction on your check stub. If you are participating, not you personally, but your agency is a participating employer covered under their provisions, you may be eligible to elect post-retirement medical, dental, vision, life insurance options through their plan. If you have questions about their offerings or eligibility, please contact them directly. Contact information for their agency is provided at the end of this presentation. Private insurance. If your agency does not participate with the New Mexico Retiree Healthcare Authority, you have other options. So if your agency's current provider offers a portability option, you may be able to continue those coverages post-retirement. If you have private insurance available to you through a spouse or a domestic partner, the health insurance marketplace, Medicaid, Medicare, lots of options. Additionally, our friends at the New Mexico Aging and Long-Term Services Department did a presentation recording for us that covers the State Health Insurance Assistance Program known as SHIP. You are welcome to reach out to them to see what other offerings they have for eligible members. And so you are welcome to watch that video in our video library as well, or you can reach out to the Aging and Long-Term Services Department directly. All right, so let's say you pull the documentation together, you filled out the application for pension. The next step involves submitting your application for retirement. So you have multiple options for taking your or submitting your paperwork to PERA. First and foremost, PERA has 2 offices. You can walk in anytime, Monday through Friday, without an appointment to submit that documentation. Staff will fine-tooth comb it with you. They'll make a copy for your records. It's a really great way to have a hands-on, bird's-eye view of, the submission process. You can also submit your application for pension and supporting documentation via fax, via email, via our drop boxes that are available outside of each of the respective offices, and courtesy of a change to our Rio self-service account, you can upload your application for pension and supporting documentation through your Rio self-service portal. If you have a self-service account, you will see that in the left-hand side of the screen, there's an option to upload your forms, and then you just pick the applicable form out of the list. That is my favorite option outside of hand delivering it to an office. And the reason is it actually gives you a notification that your forms and/or supplemental documentation has been received by PERA. So it takes the guesswork out of that if you're not hand delivering it. All right, so what happens when PERA gets our hot little hands on your retirement application? We are now going to discuss PERA's in-house processing cycle. First and foremost, staff is going to review your retirement application. They're going to go through all the supporting documentation, all of the forms. If everything is good to go, you will receive an acknowledgement letter of receipt confirming your retirement date and the selected form of payment. Some of you will need that letter for your appointment to process out of your employer. If you have not received that form in roughly 2 weeks, or that letter in roughly 2 weeks, please reach out to us so we can help you connect with the retirement specialist. I know during peak retirement seasons at PERA, sometimes it can take longer than 14 days, but generally someone on staff should review your paperwork in a timely manner, roughly 14 days, and send that letter out to you. Once we've verified your retirement, let me back up 2 seconds. If additional information is needed or the forms do not meet our requirements, staff also notifies you in writing. They will send you whatever they need to be corrected in the body of that letter. Take care of it quickly so that you are not putting your retirement date in jeopardy. As we discussed earlier, failure to submit a completed retirement application delays your retirement to the first day of the month after it is complete. All right, so staff will audit your account and ensure that you actually meet eligibility, all of your wages look good. And so that is the next step in that process. 1 to 2 months prior to your effective retirement date, our retirement division staff will prepare and send what we call a final estimate of benefits. We want you to scrutinize that, make sure everything looks good. On the 27th day of the month, prior to your effective retirement date, PERA will write to your employer requesting a certification of your final wages and your date of separation. This should not be the first time your employer hears you're retiring. Out of respect for yourself and your agency, it is your responsibility to give a proper notice. For most of us, that involves giving a 2-week notice. And even if you don't mean it, write a letter that says, thank you for all of the opportunities to learn and grow. My retirement date will be blah, blah, blah. My last day of employment will be blah, blah, blah. Sign it, deliver it, make sure you get HR a copy so that they can help you get processed out as well. And then you should be good to go from there. PERA's notification that we need your final wages and date of separation should not be that notification. If your agency requires more than a 2-week notice, make sure you adhere to that so that our processing on the back end is not delayed because they didn't get enough notice. All right, so your employer has a deadline to return that certification to us, and in turn, PERA staff will place you on payroll, which is super exciting. On PERA's website, we actually have a list under the retiree tab of the direct deposit schedule. And so in the example we gave early on in the presentation, somebody who leaves employment March 31st, who retires April 1st, should expect to see their first payment released for direct deposit on the last business day of April. And so from there, after that point, always the last business day of the month, and the schedule is on our website. All right, so Once you've turned in your retirement application, sometimes we get questions about how to make changes. When do I get my first cost of living adjustment? Is there other information I need to know to be prepared? And the answer is yes to all of it. First and foremost, I call this our buyer's remorse form. Sometimes members submit a retirement application one day and then wake up the next day and go, what did I do? And so this change in retirement date form allows you to do one of two things. You can push or pull your retirement date if you need to. Let's say you decided to stay on and finish a project, or maybe you turned in your application when you were eligible for the retirement, and you got a job offer for the next opportunity you were waiting to hear back from. As long as PERA receives that change in retirement date form before the end of this month, we can get you retired, presuming you're eligible, at the start of the next. So you can push or pull your retirement date as necessary, or you can put your retirement date on hold until further notice. So this form is super helpful for changing your dates. If you need to change form of payment, beneficiary, direct deposit, and or tax withholding, additional forms and possibly documentation may be required. All right, cost of living adjustment. So you will be the first to admit with me that as an active employee, we only get a raise when our agency can afford it. That is not applicable to our retirees. Statute determines when a retiree is eligible for a cost of living adjustment, presuming that whichever of the 31 plans you are a member of has a cost of living adjustment provision. COLA eligibility falls into two categories. If you are retiring prior to age 65, the current rules require that you be retired 2 full January through December cycles before your first cost of living adjustment is payable the following July. So if someone gives up their day job anytime between today, which is March 14th of 2023 and December 31st of 2023, they would be retired no later than January 1st of 2024. That individual needs to be retired all of 2024, all of 2025, and in July of 2026, they would be eligible for their first of hopefully many cost of living adjustments. If an individual is 65 or over or retiring under a PERA-approved disability, the individual needs to be retired 1 January through December cycle, and their first cost of living adjustment would be payable the following July. So in that scenario, 65 or over or retiring on a disability, anytime between today and December 31st of 2023, they would be retired all of 2024, and their first raise would be payable in July of 2025. Some important notes. PERA's cost of living adjustment is now calculated courtesy of 2020 legislative changes based on a profit sharing model. PERA's actuaries will look at PERA's funding status, investment proceeds, and determine what percentage of compounding cost of living adjustment will be paid to retirees each July. Without a crystal ball and being able to tell what future years funding status and investment proceeds are going to look like, it is important to note that the cost of living provision currently in place has a minimum payment of 0.5% compounding COLA and a maximum of 3%, while PERA is less than 100% funded. When PERA returns to 100% funding status, that cost of living adjustment can go up to 5% compounding for your benefit. Other important notes. Cost of living adjustments are paid in conjunction with your July 31st payment. You would actually be surprised at the number of inquiries we get on January 1st asking where a member's cost of living adjustment payment is. But PERA actually tells our members in writing when they are eligible for a cost of living adjustment what their new benefit will look like. So we send a letter in conjunction with that payment, but you can anticipate it will fall on July 31st after you meet eligibility based on your age at retirement. And we notify you in writing, which is another reason you have to keep PERA in the loop and notify us of any demographic mailing address changes. All right, next, additional resources that are super important to your retirement planning journey. Lots of questions about post-retirement insurance, involves retiree healthcare. There is a list of participating entities on their website, or you can give them a call and say, hey, I work for XYZ entity. Does my agency participate in your plan? And they are happy to help you. Our sister retirement plan, the Educational Retirement Board, has a website. They also have a self-service portal that you can create a user ID and password for, just for your reference. Our friends at the Aging and Long-Term Services Division, contact information there. Our friends at the Social Security Administration can help you figure out if and when you are eligible for additional benefits under their plan provisions. And then because PERA provides you with an estimate of benefits in the pre-tax, pre-insurance deduction forms, you may find the tax tools listed here to your benefit in determining your after-tax benefit amount. All right, so I mentioned earlier we were going to talk about how to keep tabs on your service credits. There are several ways. And so every fall, PERA mails an annual member statement to our members who have a valid address on file. If you've moved and you haven't told PERA, our mailings are likely not reaching you. Those statements get mailed usually in the September-October timeframe, and PERA never sends you junk mail. We actually want you to open those letters and scrutinize them. If the salary doesn't look right, just a fun fact for you, those salaries are reported in fiscal years, July 1 to June 30th, so it likely will not match your W-2 form, but there is a calendar year salary reporting available on PERA's self-service feature. Also on page 2 of your annual member statement, you will find your current beneficiary designations. If you flip to page 2 of your statement and you see someone whose name starts with the word X, please hustle over to PERA's website or your HR division to fill out an updated beneficiary form. And, you know, we may ask you for some additional documentation, just as an FYI. All right, so second way to see your account details. PERA's website actually has a link to our self-service feature. When you visit nmpera.org, there is a yellow button at the top of the page that will redirect you to our self-service portal. If you've never created an account, we'll let you select a user ID and password that makes sense to you once you verify your demographic information. Passwords expire every 120 days, whether you log in every day or every 120 days. Also, the self-service portal pre-retirement, aside from giving you the ability to upload your forms for processing, includes a benefit calculator, so an estimate of benefits calculator, and recent addition includes an estimator that'll help you calculate not only the cost of purchasing airtime service credit, but also military service credit. So lots of helpful tools pre-retirement. In retirement, it transitions with you to help you understand the details of your monthly deposit, download tax documents, get income verification letters if you need them for a lender. So this is a severely underused resource. If you are nearing retirement, please use a personal email address, because when you lock yourself out of the account, when your password expires and we reset it for you, there's a chance you're not going to get that reset email password. So just a couple of helpful tips. Of course, you are welcome to reach out to us directly. Staff is available Monday through Friday from 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. in our respective offices. No appointment is necessary. Email. Outreach staff responds to the PERA-member services and PERA-Albuquerque incoming email inquiries. If you send an email to noreply.records, as the name implies, you're not going to get a response. And so if you have a question, please use the 2 emails at the top, one or the other, doesn't have to be both. Or you can upload, send forms to us through the noreply.records option if you choose. As I mentioned, you can upload those forms also through your self-service portal. This is a lovely snapshot of PERA's website. Just in case you might be a touch dyslexic, if you type mnpera.org, you will visit our friends in Minnesota. Since PERA is an acronym that stands for Public Employees Retirement Association, there are several all across the United States. You want the New Mexico page. All right, PERA has a really wide scope of social media accounts. We encourage you to give us a follow. We promise not to cyberstalk you. You will find all of our video segments in our video library hosted either on our website or in our YouTube channel. This is one of the many ways we communicate with our members. Sometimes we do fun facts. Other times we distribute other information that is useful and valuable. We also send newsletters twice a year. So we are trying to keep everyone in the loop. All right, one last perk. PERA offers a deferred compensation option known as the PERA Smart Save Plan. No one's ever come to a retirement seminar in my 18 years and said, you know, Christina, I saved too much for retirement. What do I do now? It is always, I wish I started sooner. I wish I saved more. The reason this is included at the end, right? We're at the finish line. We're talking about retirement is because many of you work for entities that pay out your leave balances in lump sums. If you have a deferred compensation account, you will see on the left side of the slide that the IRS allows you to defer a really huge chunk of dollars, which oftentimes come from our leave balance payouts, to help shelter those dollars from tax. And so I encourage you to reach out to our PERA Smart Save representatives. If you are interested in enrolling, or if you're interested in how to defer those leave balances at the end of your career, and also make sure your beneficiaries are up to date in that plan as well. Of course, if you have questions and you can't reach our representatives, please reach out to PERA. We'll help connect you. Last but not least, thank you so much for joining us today. We hope you learned something of value. We appreciate you as PERA members and wish you best on your retirement planning journey. Take care.